What?
You can toggle.
No, mine's
Yours is
on, dude.
toggled off.
It's on. It's on.
Oh, there we go. Instead of mine, it wasn't, but let's come on. All good. It's on. It's on. It's on.
All right. It's on. It's on. No, man, don't argue with me. It's on. I know what I'm doing.
See, this is why it's best that I just leave it to you.
You let me have my boomer moments, and it'll be fine.
It's on. It's on. It's on.
It's on.
No, you need to post it in general public.
I know.
Just double check it. Doubler check
I'm doing it. Not like this keyboard. It's loud.
And Chic is first.
Here we go. OC's in here. Long time no see. T-Bone. Always good to have you guys. Don't forget, hit the likes, share it with your friends. And we got about 11 people in here. We'll go ahead and kick off. I'll go ahead and start it up.
Get it rolling, mate.
XLM, I will update XLM. It's a shit coin. That's mean. I'll go over it. You guys
mate,
are.
why have you got 2 XRP charts up, man? You definitely love that coin, mate. You love that coin.
So,
look, he's even using super waves.
No, I was trying to do something on my phone, and I was trying to cycle through charts on the TradingView thing because I wasn't on my computer, and it cycled me to an XRP chart on this right here when I was trying to get to my sessions. So
all right.
Yeah. Anyway,
you love XRP, mate.
Love it. They're extra special investors is what they are. We'll leave it at that. Yeah, so move down, guys. Very, very simple, very, very easy move. If you're in the group, something we were looking for, right? We talked about the local level at 31,273 really being the key level. You can see that just clear as day right here, even like down to an hourly. Where were we going to go once that was cleared out? Was pretty stock standard. We were looking for 29,800 and 29,300 respectively. And reason being is, well, 29,800 is a pretty important level on the overall high time frames, right? So you can see that right here. Okay, so very important level. And then we had 29,300, which was, you know, it was, both of these are volume-based levels as well. They both had some very good importance there on the profiles. The 300, a little more obscure because that was actually our breakout level. I know a lot of people were looking for 29.8, 30,000. It's 29,300. You know, this is what we're gonna say about it. And I do believe I took that off of there, but you can see that it did fill out right here. Okay, so you can see why we came back to the level we did. Really nice back test right into support. So the question will be is if we get the low of the range obviously does look like so. And that range is basically just the structure range here. So pretty simple stuff. If I can find my folder, I am not on a bigger screen today, so I'm struggling with what's going on the computer right now. I'm not used to this. I maybe need to get my glasses in my old age or something. But yeah, this is your range lows essentially right here and range highs. So you can see that we're up against the range highs now. So fairly important area to get above. If we get above, what do we expect? Probably the daily. Just above us, there is the weekly VWAP. So if you come up here and you start giving levels up to the downside, though, specifically something like a daily pivot in this case, or like 30,200, one would think we're going to revisit that 29,800 area and have to gauge the reaction. Losing that area does put us in position to go to the low of the range, which, you know, it wouldn't be all that surprising considering you left the range, deviated, came all the way back to it. And if this were to stop here, this move, you know, all you've done is confirm the range high as resistance. One would expect to see the point of control all the way down here at 29,800 and 29,300 again, lose that, and it's range low. So pretty simple stuff. While Bitcoin is range bound, the market will follow Bitcoin, and you could really summarize it into these levels right here. These are the levels that we've been trading off of. Is the June 22nd summer low at 28,726, 29,800, and then looking up to 31,273 at the highs here. So very simple range, very easy to trade if you're patient anyway. There was a trade today that I took. It was here. We did have a couple of single prints, well, a single print that closed out right here at 30,619. So I did take a long and close those out basically. I think a lot of people were looking for a full range rotation of the previous day, and I don't think it hit the point of control. I think it came up to these SPs and then got shut down. So it was a good early take profit, I guess, in that point. So at this point, if you start losing this area, which is the bottom of that single print at 30,041 with your VWAP there, one would think you're going to back test 30,200 and actually, you know, put a little pressure on that support. And you'll also notice on your higher time frames that this is a larger range right here. So losing that level and getting back into that old range, looking for that rotation, would also bump you out of this range here, which is where you need to be holding to go higher. So 30,200, pretty important. If lost, yeah, you could come all the way down to like 29,800, might offer up a nice bounce. But if that level is not support, you know, you've got about $1,000 drop, in my opinion, incoming potentially. So that's really all I've got. It's very simple there. Max, if you want to hop on to order flow, we'll keep this one pretty short and sweet. There we go.
I don't think you covered why 29,800 is a thing, but I will do it.
I did. I showed them on the monthly time frame, and it's the one tick or whatever. You know, they can figure it out. If they're in the group, they've got it. If not,
yeah. So it's the. Let me find a chart that I can bring over. So it's the previous point of control and the potential gold pocket. I actually haven't got much to say, to be fair. There's not really much to go on about. I mean, the trades in the immediate, if we're going to be, you know, trying to find some day trades, the initial one is, you know, magic. I don't know whether, sorry, I was literally daydreaming while you were talking then. So you've got the weekly VWAP coming just a bit higher. It's actually not on this chart. Let me pull this one over. That's one more time frame here.
bro.
And I'm so unorganized. Awful.
Read the private chat.
What? So we've got the weekly VWAP is just above here. So you've got the weekly VWAP and potentially coming in with that gold pocket if you're pulling it from here. So that's a trade, and you could also get, that'd be the swing failure pattern of the previous day high. Other trades that you could take, if we are pulling the previous day fork, which Magic showed us how to do.
I'm gonna have to delete this whole thing.
Yeah, we will. So there's no point me making it. I may have already made it, so let me find it here. There we go. Hidden, so we know. I got something else in here. Initial balance. So that's the previous day fork. If you want to try and line it up with the gold pocket, we could say that if we're coming down to, you know, that 29,800 region, which is where the previous day point of control is, and the current gold pocket is, you know, it's coming in around midday, or I don't know why I said it was coming in around here, around 4 o'clock, which is the New York Open. So yeah, nice little setup. If you come up, take the highs, tap the weekly VWAP, potential short setup, as you also got the top of the pitchfork, down to the bottom, which is the previous point of control. They're the only two trades that I've got. They're the two little things that I'm watching out for. I apologize that I was a bit unorganized then. It's been a bad night's sleep. The stream's self-destruct as soon as you're finished. There you go. So if you're smart, you've just got some sauce then. But yeah, Magic. If you want to go over some alts, I don't know what you want to do. They're the only two trades I can see.
We'll take a look at them. I mean, guys, with these alts, I'm not trying to be rude, but SHIB and Doge, I'm not going to look at. I'm just not going to do it. Absolute shit coins. Stop. Don't play with those. It's just, I'm just going to say it. It is what it is. I'll cover some of the main alts that are out there that people have probably been buying into and looking at. Again, not much has changed, guys. You're really looking at this in terms of overall ranging price action. Are we in danger of running the lows? Well, as of right now, no. I mean, you're kind of in.
Boy.
Huh?
Get your screen up. We're looking at my old phone. Currently, we've got some longs underwater. So, if you lose the VWAP and the day open, probably take these lows and probably hit the pivot from there. But yeah, let's get Magic up.
Right on. Largely range bound. This is QNT, just like we talked about. If you cannot hold, the $69 level as support, one would think over time, getting flipped to resistance, you would revisit the lows. And a lot of these things look like this. You just have to be patient and see what's going to play out here, because if this begins to move up, you could get that next leg up, right? That's the thing. They're all going to follow Bitcoin at this point, at this point in the market. Holding alts or, investing in alts right now, I guess, is it's a risky game. Investing right now when they're down a lot, not as risky as one might think, as long as you're using proper risk management, understanding they can continue to go down. But, I keep getting notes from TradingView and it's messing up my object tree, which I'm not a fan of. But, you got to trade the trade. So meaning if you took this trade and you're in profits and you haven't locked any in, well, hopefully you have a stop loss just in case, right? In terms of other coins we can look at, I heard XLM, XRP is on there, obviously. They kind of go hand in hand, the two X's there, since they basically try to do similar things to each other, I think. Where did I put that chart? Is it in the leading crypto? Why do I have so many YouTube charts up? I'm as disorganized as Max. There we go.
I have an excuse. It's early in the morning.
Yeah, again. So with this one, I am looking at this and I'm just, if you can get above 16.88 cents, not much has changed. A lot of these alts look the same, guys. It's the same with Bitcoin even. Like a lot of the levels are the same because you're in a range. You need to put the levels on there. There's not going to be a change day to day on a lot of these. That's not to be rude or anything, but you've got this high volume node here. So you can see that this is a bifurcated range. So you have a range high, range low. You might as well look at this as two. If you cannot get above this level and confirm it as support, which you came up here, rejected, and you're now coming back into, if you confirm a low or high, you're coming back to the low of the range. You're going to retest probably this 13-cent region. If, you can flip 15 cents, you've got a nice move up to 16.88 coming. And that would be a pretty important level because one, you filled in this kind of like gap in volume here, but two, this would be acceptance back into this area to try to get up to the point of control around 20 cents. Nothing is theoretically changed regardless, even if you go to 20 cents. It's largely going to be a range bound asset probably. Where is this one? take a look at a little bit on the higher time frames here.
In answer to T-Bone, yeah, the Dalton could be in play. The issue that you've got is the previous day value area high. It comes in at the pivot, so there's two confluences there for a long. So you have to be cautious when you get there, not to jump the gun. And it could just happen in a click of a finger. Like you could just melt straight through it and go straight to, you know, that previous day point of control on that gold pocket. So you have to be cautious trading this one. Really, you want to be given a short from higher, because you don't really want to be shorting at the previous day value area high, in my opinion, in the area that it is. So yeah, just be cautious if you're trading it. Ideally, the short is higher up at that weekly VWAP / swing failure pattern of the previous day high. But yeah, sorry, Mike.
Yeah, so again, 16.88 cents. Really nothing has changed on this asset until you're back above that. You could trade this as a range potentially if you wanted to, but you know, I'd be cautious on that. If you're buying in this region, yeah, I mean, you could justify a buy around 12.77 cents. It was on the chart for a reason. The problem with that is if we go any lower than that, well, you've got a significant drop down here. Like you've got like a 50% drop potentially at hand at that point. And I would make that, you know, something that I know of, because if Bitcoin is not bottomed here, and I don't think we have any evidence that it has, meaning that it doesn't mean it can't pump up to $35,000 to $36,000 or so forth. It just means we have nothing to confirm that this is a trend reversal. And if the trend is down, even if this rallies from here and you're not taking profits, you know, if you're continuing to hold positions, I think over time, if you were in profits, you're going to get those run back. So my advice would be to trade this level to level. If you get the opportunity to run up to 16.88 cents and you bought down here on the dip, I would recommend locking in some profits. Does that mean sell all your coins? No, it just means make sure you paid yourself on the chance that things go sideways, because they definitely can in this market. We don't have any, we do have a clear direction. I shouldn't say we don't have a clear direction. We have a clear direction. The direction has been down. We don't have any kind of clear reversal. So there's really no point in buying to hodl coins unless it's part of a long-term strategy where you're like, hey, I'm going to hold these till 2025, in which case, you know, do you. Am I advocating for that strategy? No, I mean, I do a little bit of it, but I don't do a lot of it. So you'll hear me say that a lot about almost all these altcoins, because realistically, that's going to be the case. Like just like XRP here, which I messed this chart up on mobile earlier, so I've got to get that fixed at some point. But XRP, you know, off of a massive level here, it's one we had marked out, 39 cents. You did get the wick down. We were looking for, I think, 29. I think this came down to 33, but that 29-cent region was called out in July of 2021. So pretty close. You know, does that mean we're not going to get it? I mean, this could bounce all the way back to 50 cents, and this is just a giant back test, you know. So realistically, if you're dollar cost averaging on XRP, it did cover this. You could look at this as an overall range, right? And you could say, well, I want to buy anywhere inside this range, and I'm happy. How in the heck did this get all the way down here? I don't even know what that is. This is what I mean by the mobile. I'm going to have to redo this at some point because it messed up my range. But you would be looking to buy, you know, in this area, because you're getting into the bottom half of the idea that, you know, you're at the lower half of this overall high time frame range, which does range from about $1.90 to 19 cents, to 10x range. So those that were telling you to hold up here, and it doesn't matter if XRP goes to 19 cents, it does matter. That's a massive drop. So, you know, the point of those videos on XRP and these other ones aren't to like, you know, hey, look at me, the TA works so well. It's to, you know, give you guys not financial advice, but give you guys pivots in the market where it's like, you know, if you lose 50 cents, you're probably going to almost see a 50% drop in price. And you did. I think we were talking about 62 cents, but you ended up losing 62 cents and it dropped down to 33. So, you know, there were guys in my comments saying it doesn't matter if it goes to 33, they're going to hodl. And I'm like, why wouldn't you just use a stop loss and then just buy back at 30 cents or, you know, 40 cents? Yeah, but I digress. This one looks like everything else. You're at big support, so you definitely can't sell here. You want to sell on bounces if they're given, right? That's the strategy. Is if you're buying, or even if you're just down in a position, you're like, I can't take it anymore. You don't want to capitulate down here. What you want to do is wait for a bounce. You want to try to get out somewhere near the highs after it's got a nice push up, because these bounces are sizable. And even just resetting your position to be in a position to make a good decision on the next opportunity is where you want to put yourself. But if you're just constantly in a bad position, then it's just not as much fun. It really isn't. It's a very long waiting game, and this probably won't be a good stream for you at that point, because this is more of a trader's mindset. Ethereum, a very easy chart on Ethereum. Kind of letting it fly a little bit because I am going to delete this stream as soon as we're done. So probably not going to look at Filecoin. XRP Mikey. Well, sorry about your XRP, man. Yeah, so these were the levels on Ethereum that were given, 1730, 1800, and then 1963, which you can see you came up, did not close above, back tested, and then you've come all the way back to support. So kind of similar to Bitcoin. I guess you could look at this similar to Bitcoin. Came up, deviated the high here, which was a big take profit for me on my long, if you guys recall, and then comes back to where high time frame support hasn't quite run the range low yet. So support is support until it's not. So you have to evaluate every interaction with it, individual of all the other ones. Someone last night in the live stream, I think it was Side Tangent STD, was talking about some 4-hour bullish divergence here on the RSI specifically. And, I told him, realistically, would I trade this pivot to this pivot? No. But you could take the trade because you have a very clear invalidation here with how this move was set up. So you have an easy stop loss. And if you can work out a stop loss, you can work out risk, and you can play that if you like to. You can even control, how much money is going into it, more or less, etc. So let's say Bitcoin does rally from here, heads north. Very well could happen. It'll drag everything up with it, including Ethereum. Again, crack 1963, hold it as support. Where are you looking up to? 2130. That's just a TPO level, right? An older TPO level on the chart. These are all levels that have been on my chart for 5 or more months. They have not changed. So the levels are being respected. The tools are good. So we will continue to use them. So for Ethereum, this is support. If at any point you start losing this area, I know some people were talking about 1600, and there is support at 1600 in the instance that, let's say, Bitcoin really does, head down and challenge its lows again. You have support at 1646, I believe, was the level. Yeah, 1646, but I'd really be looking down to like the 1400s, retest that all-time high. And if that's lost, then, well, you guys can see how quickly it moved up and how quickly it will likely move down. All that is well and far away because we are at support. It's only worth noting because it is something you have to be aware of. Is it actionable right now? No. It's just something you need to know of. And if you were, let's say you were sitting in like a really nice short from up here at the very highs, one would think you've taken some profits along the way, but you can't help but plan to where your next take profits are going to be if you're managing the trade appropriately. And that would be an area of interest. But realistically, until, even if 2130 is regained, you're looking up to 2420. And that is where things kind of get a little more interesting. 2420, $2,500, however you want to word it, pretty big level, sizable. You get above that, I think 2620 had a NPOC there last quarter, I think is what we were targeting. Well, yeah, no, it wasn't last quarter. It was this quarter's early on. You get above this region of the chart, one would think you could actually take quite the leap, a $600 leap up to, 2970, maybe even as high as 3230. And then things start to look a little different. But that's, again, these are all hypotheticals, and you have to trade what's in front of you right now. You have nothing to show reversal to get that high. That would be quite the move. So for me, I would just trade the levels that are at hand. These are your bounce zones. If those are lost, and let's say Bitcoin takes the dirt road home, swing fails the low or something, right? You've got to be thinking Ethereum is going to do something similar. So that 1646 level becomes relevant, but only if you can actually trade the trade meaning that you can identify the swing failure pattern, trade the market structure change on the low time frame and the order flow, and then actually see it flip this region into support to buy. If you can't do that, then that trade's probably not for you. Otherwise, you're best waiting for consolidation to give you a better buy signal. Waiting for things to mature a little bit might be the safer play, unless you're just a blind dollar cost average person, in which case, you know, do what you got to do. What else did we put in that title? I don't think I put any other altcoins in there. I do have charts on some of these other ones, you know, like Filecoin. I know somebody asked me for Filecoin. I have a chart on Filecoin. You're going to love it. Maybe I got a chart on Filecoin. Maybe I don't. I think I was looking at the one that was for Uni. There's File. I have not looked at this. We did a chart build on this one months ago, and we had said that this was just such a key level that you had to hold right here, coming all the way down, right? And if you lose that, we were looking down to this 525 region, and it did front run us just a little bit. So I would imagine some of these things that are front running these major targets for me just make me think that these bounces eventually will get sold into and we will hit those levels. So we were looking for 525 and we hit 635. So a little bit of a front run there, $1 front run on an asset that's only trading for that is fairly high. Let's see coordinates on this one. 547. So for whatever reason, I had it at 547. And I do line up my boxes exactly with whatever amount that I want. I'm really just looking for the back test of this right here, which you could argue you've done, right? You could argue that as a back test. So anywhere in this region, probably sub $7 down to the low of this box, which comes in at like $3. So keep that in mind. Manage your risk accordingly, but that would be the area of interest. And the reason being, when you look at a chart like this, which, you know, you can't say it's a bad chart. I mean, it's a bad chart locally. It definitely is. But, you know, overall in its history, this isn't absolutely terrible. There's my notes. Right. So you can see that nice consolidation up. One would think you'd come back to the consolidation area, you know, and base out of here again. One would think this would be the best place to find an entry, right? If you lose these lows, though, at like $2 or so, $2.35, price discovery to zero. I wouldn't say zero, but price discovery to the downside. And it's not pretty when that happens. So that is Filecoin. I'm not buying any Filecoin. My targets on it are getting front ran just a little bit. Was looking for about 547, 525. Anything below that, and you're back inside of this range, and you got to evaluate accordingly. But the fact that it did front run this level makes me wonder if you know, the moves aren't done. And a lot of the altcoins look that way, where they front ran major targets, making me think that even if they get a bounce here, we will come back and fulfill those targets over time. A really good example of that is Q&T. Actually, Q&T is a pretty good example of this. So is ADA. But you can see on Q&T, we were targeting $40.40, came down to 48. So major front run, but what are you doing here at resistance? This chart looks absolutely horrific, not in log scale, but on the weekly. But you are finding resistance right here at old support. So if you get the SR flip, well, you've got problems, you know. That's where you can push down into those targets. So you've got to watch this. If you get the SR flip the other way, you can run this back up to like $97. Could very well happen. It's just a lot of that's going to depend on what the market does in the coming weeks. I'm not betting on any major run-ups out of altcoins that I'm really wanting to be involved in. Let's put it that way. I'm not trying to risk my capital on them. I'm sticking to short-term day trades and managing the swing trade short that I'm still in on Bitcoin. That's really it for me on those. Cardano is another really good example of front-running a major target. So you can see that we had 34.1 cents as our major target, right? And it came down to 38.4. So a 4-cent front run. Across the board, when you see stuff like that, it does make you think you're going to at least back test some resistance. Then it's going to be a case of, can it make a higher low, or will it take the low right here at like 48 cents perhaps? And if it does, where's it going? Back down to support. And it's when you make that lower low. And sometimes when you front run levels like this, like you did right here, you front ran this major 12M here at 72 cents for 74.7. Now we were looking for a buy zone in this region anyway, but the major level was 72 cents. You come down after you front ran it, and then you just smash through it. So really builds up and cuts through it like a knife. So that can happen. I don't really think that there's any other alts outside of Algorand. This is one that I did buy a little bit of. I do like Algorand, this chart. This was the box that I put out fucking like February or January. Looking to fill this box out. Still looking for 33.53 cents. Did front run it. Again, another front run by a couple pennies. You're getting the bounce. Where are you bouncing into? Old support. Now flip to potential resistance. So you have to keep that in mind. The potential is there. Does that mean that you shouldn't DCA in because you're expecting these levels to get hit? That's really up to you and your strategy. Me personally, if I want something bad enough in my portfolio and I get pretty close to my target, I'll front run it a little bit. Again, risk management is going to be key. So I'm not allocating on almost any project. I did deviate from this on a couple altcoins, which probably a mistake. But by and large, I'll usually dedicate that first entry to like 15 or 20% of the overall position I'm looking to acquire. And then I'll break up the remainder of it in anywhere from 15 to 22 entries. And I'll weight them as they go down. So I'll get my skin in the game, and then I will weight my entries going forward to get a good average. If I don't get those weighted average entries, I'll basically wait for the structure to mature, and I'll add accordingly on strength, adding to the position. So you just got to do what's best for you in the moment, or take the best trade in the moment, as you probably heard me say a lot. But those are pretty common strategies. Crow, this is another one we absolutely just cooked. Breaking down, what did we talk about in the last live stream? We did talk about this. We said, what would happen, this arbitrary trend line, right? We were looking for this POC initially at 18.84 cents. This is all the way back up here, talking about coming down to this zone right here, right? The old top zone, really looking for 18.84, getting a bounce out of, well, the log scale golden pocket, I guess, is there in this case, and you're bouncing back into it. So you really don't want to see this become resistance. People get excited about the bounce. If it becomes resistance, it rolls over, fills out the golden pocket a little bit. I do think this one could go lower still, but if you were looking at Crow from a average perspective and you were watching it trade at 97 cents and it's down at, what is this, 18 cents? One would think that might be kind of attractive if you're into the project. I'm not buying any Crow. I just charted the asset. I did trade this. I traded this asset, but I did not buy any on the investment. I've made that perfectly clear. I'm not buying Crow, but that's not because I don't like the project. It's just the chart just doesn't do it for me. Solana is always popular. I keep saying the chart looks like shit. It's come down to exactly the one level we had here. I expect it to break this level over time potentially and head lower. That's it. If you come down here and you start losing like this $30 region, one would expect $20. Nice psychological level. Also, your range low right here, you can see the wicks. Okay, you lose that, and you really are looking down into this range. And with everything going on in the news and the blockchain going down so much, I don't know how realistic this one is as a survivor. I don't know enough about the project to have an opinion on that, but I can tell you this is a pretty ugly chart. So for whatever that's worth, this is an ugly chart. I would not buy this chart, but if something happens and it rebounds, gets back above, sure, you could maybe justify an entry, but I'm hard pressed to want to put any money into Solana, to be honest with you. Kind of reminds me of FTM when I said don't touch FTM at like $2 and some change. And that panned out wonderfully. Like, I don't even know where FTM's trading at now. I just stopped looking. Yeah, this was your support right back into the point of control. And now you're all the way down at 25 to 37 cents. And I think we had said 40 to 50 was a likely stopping point, or at least bump in the road. And that's by and large fairly accurate. It's just I don't have any interest in the project. There's no point to this chart. This is a really ugly chart, and it can go much lower. Like you can see right here that if it does not find its legs in this region, what is below you, right? That's all you need to do is what is below you. There's nothing here. There's no history, there's no data, there's no support buildup. We have no No indication there will be buyers present if this support is lost. Now, again, you're not trading below the support yet, so we shouldn't get too ahead of ourselves. Bitcoin, came into support. A lot of altcoins have come into support. This one's coming down to major support. But if the trend were to continue and you do get the rollover, what's to stop it from going back to like 5 cents, 4 cents? That's my point, is just be careful with some of these altcoins because they are going to get absolutely massacred if there is further downside in the future for Bitcoin. Atom's another really good chart. This is a very easy trade. This is one I did in the group, actually. And you had one potential hopium bounce right here up to the Q4 21 low. This was the level to get back above. If you got above this level, you really would be looking at this as potentially ranging all the way back up to like 27 bucks. But you had to get above the Q4 low for that to happen, and you didn't. You got rejected here, gave up the golden pocket, and for me, the add-in area was $8.22. We came down to $8.14, got a 50% bounce to the range highs, and now we are back into this old range right here that was lined out. You can see you have an SFP of the lows, and you have pretty much your range low right here you need to get back inside. So really needs to regain 980. If it can live above 980 long enough, it will eventually cycle to $11.23, maybe as high as $12.21 again. And that's how I would trade that. If you lose this level though at 918, start closing below it, well, one would think you're going to re-challenge 822, and then over time, probably, if this doesn't hold as like a secondary confirmation, come down to like the low $6 to $5 range. But this is irrelevant when you have price action right here to trade. As a trader, you have to look at this and say, okay, well, how can I trade this? What's the best trade here if there is one? If there's not a trade, you just move on and find another opportunity. Hopefully that's made sense. Let me make sure I'm not missing any questions. No, just look at the chart, man. Like we'll go back to it. When you look at this chart, Solana is a really great example. So when you see something like this, straight downtrend, rejection like this, and then a really harsh sell-off, this is one of those where this is no longer where like someone's like, well, this is a falling wedge. I don't know how many falling wedges have been in Solana on the way down, but I imagine that people have been calling a few out. They'll say something like this, right? This is a falling wedge. No, this is a downtrend. This is a straight up downtrend. A horrific one at that. So when you look at it and you look at where support is, we got to go to log for this probably and get rid of these nasty trend lines now. And I think this is what we were looking at right here. This one that did break out and it went right back to target. When you look at this and you think where you're at, you've got a straight down chart. You've got nothing but lower highs across the board and massive lower lows. So the lower highs are weak, really big dips down, right? Weak highs, but the dips aren't getting smaller. They're continuing to sell off. So you're not seeing any weakness in the trend. The trend is still expanding to the downside. Does that make sense? So when you're getting this big sell-off, you're not seeing any correlation in terms of the bounce, kind of like you were indicating. We're like, I'm not seeing a strong bounce. I mean, this is probably considered a strong bounce, but when something like that happens, you want to see buyers stepping in and maybe a lower low, but not, like straight to hell from $75 all the way down to $37. But you are seeing that. And I think you'll continue to on this chart. We have no reason to think that you won't. And finding out that their network is going down globally often is, I know I don't normally pay attention to a lot of fundamental stuff, but that's something you really can't ignore. If you don't have a product that works, why would people invest in your product? And then when you look below this and you're like, man, if this thing really ever does just lose this little pocket of support here, there's almost nothing between you and single digits, So that's why I look at this the way I do. This is not a just not a good looking chart. Can it rally from here? Absolutely. I mean, anything can happen, but that's just saying caution the wind. Anything can happen. This is life. You could walk down the street tomorrow and a dog driving a car could hit you. Is it the most probable thing? Probably not. But the drops are not getting smaller. They're staying aggressive. People are heavily selling this thing. I'm not a knife catcher on trend reversals. A lot of people like to do that. And I'm not really a big DCA guy on a lot of different projects. I don't have many things in my portfolio. I don't really care to hold a bunch of coins. So for this one is just going to be a no for me, dog. It's a big Randy Jackson no. I just don't see the point in trying to catch the knife on this one when the downside is just there's just so much downside risk on this asset, because it really is peering over a cliff a little bit here, where if you start losing this region, I mean, you're at $40 right now. Imagine seeing this thing, tomorrow sub $10. Of course, anyone that has been paying attention probably wouldn't be surprised if Solana was at like sub $10.
Out of everything you could have said, a dog driving a car.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's not probable, but it could happen. So yeah, that's really all I've got. I'm not going to rifle through too many of these. We were at 41 minutes. I think we've covered everything. The problem with alts is, and you're going to hear me say very similar things about a lot of them. They're very risky right now. And does that mean, you shouldn't invest? No, I mean, you got to do what you think is best. Just because I don't want to put the risk on doesn't mean that you shouldn't, I mean, it just means that we have different strategies, and to each their own. I always miss out a little bit on the altcoins, to be upfront with you guys. I'm not an altcoin person. I am a trader, and I like to trade Bitcoin because I think it's the most reliable thing to trade in the space. Let's be very real. Everything follows it. I don't have to watch other charts. I don't even have to watch the stock market to trade this thing, because the chart's not going to lie to you. The volume's not going to lie to you. Correlation trading is not necessary. You didn't need to correlation trade this to know that this was in a giant downtrend. You didn't have to look at the stock market to be like, this is very bearish. This is not a bullish chart at all. Especially when you do something like this right here and you go right back to old points of control and get just absolutely annihilated and give up support. You're back at the range lows. This is an area we talked about in December and January, the exact box we had lined out, the exact doomsday scenario. And we need to see Bitcoin actually do something with this section of the chart. Otherwise, you're going to continue to get rejected here. And if you don't, or if you do, it's bad news. Where you're breaking in from is, if you guys recall, this range right here. You're being rejected at the range lows volume range, not the structure range, the volume range. So the volume range and the entry to our old range and our old, macro structure here is, for lack of a better term, cock blocking the price action. Until you're back above this level here and living above it, well, pressure is going to be on back to challenging this wick. It's going to be on to challenging into this overall gap that, again, these don't have to all the way fill, but more than likely they seem like they do a lot of the times. But you've got a gap right here that did start to fill and just has not filled all the way. You can see that here. It started here and I've just moved it down. So that gap picks back up at 25,350 on CME. And but we'll see what Bitcoin wants to do right here. Right now it's holding the VWAP. You start giving up the VWAP though, those are the chink in the armor, so to speak, for the low time frames. Otherwise, if you can get a push above the previous day high and into this weekly VWAP, we'll see what kind of a trade it might present. Would it be very bullish if it got higher? Yes. If it went higher, up to this 31,273 level, the opportunity to be quite bullish to maybe push into these levels higher is there. That's why I've said keep your trades short in terms of, day trades. If you're just day trading, trade the range, take the big swings, and take your profits, and then let the market do what it's going to do, and then only put your capital in when, you've got a good edge and a good target and risk worked out. Otherwise, like this is a lot like right over here. It's just chop It's just going to eat you alive if you don't know what you're doing. Same with over here. Just chop, man. Well, this is more of an investing period. This was a really nice bounce, but like this over here is much more questionable given everything that's going on price-wise and just overall volume-wise. You know, we're not seeing the volume coming into this region, but when you get a range, that's the thing, is like volume will decline, you know, before the breakout, but you would want to see, if we revisit this level, you really want to see strong buys coming in. You want to see people supporting the idea that this is a local low, at least for some form of a rally. Otherwise, it'll just sell off below it. And I personally don't know that I would want to come back down to this region. You know, we'll trade whatever comes down, but short of like a swing failure pattern of the low, I won't be presetting for anything. You know, I'll just be waiting. Presetting, I think, is I wouldn't say it's suicide, but I would say it's not the brightest thing if you're using any kind of leverage anyway. You know, I would never preset if you have leverage. I've done some limit orders, but you know, those are all within certain contexts outside of like massive volatility. Presetting during massive volatility is an absolute, you know, death sentence. So that is what I've got. That's it. Anybody have anything else before I end the stream? Check the members only here. It looks like we are good. All right, guys. Thanks for coming out. As always, appreciate you guys. Have a good evening.